Have you ever wanted to purchase an old home with a lot of old school charm just to update it and make it look like every other Chip and Joanna Gaines episode ever? You have? Okay, you're not gonna like this video very much, but anyone else that really likes old school charm, stick around because we're gonna be discussing probably one of the saddest things I have seen in home renovations history, and it's all got to do with a staircase.
Let's talk about these stairs. Y'all are absolutely hating the fact that we took these stairs out. Don't get me wrong, they were absolutely gorgeous, but honestly, just not ideal. To get to the kitchen, you either had to go through the living room, and y'all, I can't wait for y'all to see the after, or you had to walk under the staircase. Donnie's 6'2", and it's just not ideal to walk under to get to the kitchen. Through every single door that you come through, the stairs were the focal point and blocked the beautiful view into the backyard. So it just made sense to me that they needed to be taken out. I think that this is just so much more family friendly, but y'all's comments are literally giving me nightmares, but that's okay.
Going from a beautiful Victorian library aesthetic to sad beige mum aesthetic. Replace beautiful architecture with a ladder. Why did you buy a piece of history only to HGTV it?
Everyone's entitled to an opinion, but I'm gonna circle back that this is our dream house and we're just trying to make it as homey as possible. We even opened up the case opening to the kitchen more, and y'all got us. We are going for the modern farmhouse look, but hope y'all still follow along for the journey. And here's a sneak peek at the new stairs.
In all honesty, I think you can duck. For something that is that beautiful, I would argue, hey, it's worth you hitting your head once every 6 months because look at that piece of artwork. This is something that I've noticed with a lot of house flippers and people that buy these older homes. They buy them and say, oh yes, we love the character of the home, we love this, we love that, and then they just tear it all out. And I just want to scream. I don't know why these people do this. I kind of wish that, you know, they would go ahead, buy their own plot of land, build their modern farmhouse. But for whatever reason, they really like purchasing these older homes that do have a lot of character, but then end up stripping said character. And I do have a theory about this, which I will discuss a little bit in this video. But let's have a look at a little bit more of what they have to say about it. It just made sense to, like, you know, get rid of this beautiful thing. So depressing.
Top weird things that are in the house. We'll start with this one. Padded fabric walls.
So I can already imagine some people being like, yep, no, I couldn't live in this because my hay fever. And look, I completely agree with it. I don't think that this is something that people could keep in their space. Like, obviously cushioned walls are a bit of an odd thing. Maybe it'd be good for a children's bedroom or a children's playroom where you know they're going to wrestle each other. When the house is this old, okay, I can understand you may need to remove that sort of thing, especially if someone is sensitive to dust. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Circus curtains.
Ooh, yeah, that's giving me carnival core.
What's your vision?
Chairs, screen.
Okay.
This last room, that's like the movie room and stuff, it feels a little bit more like an extension. You can see there's not as much character in the space. It's kind of got the standard ceiling. It's got some interesting, you know, wall coverings, but, you know, for the most part, I would be okay with them stripping majority of this out. I would probably still keep the windows and the window trims, and that would probably be about it. There is this really weird fine line that I do think a lot of house flippers just overstep extensively, and it's understanding where the character is in the home and what is actually, you know, something that you can keep over what you can't keep. The staircase is the main issue here. That was a beautiful staircase. It looked original to the home. It added so much character and probably had historic value as well, depending on how old it was. And they've stripped that part out. I would not be mad with this last room, this movie room, if they stripped all of that out. But the staircase. So they show a little tour of the outside of the house as well. And I think this is where we can start understanding why they fell in love with this place. and it's not for the house.
Should we also double the property as a wedding venue? I told y'all that I would show y'all the pavilion. It's literally the most perfect place for get-together, reception, parties, family reunion, you name it. We can't wait to have so many fun things out. I mean, just look at the potential dance floor. The pavilion has an outside barbecue area. It does need a lot of work, kids. We do need to redo the bathrooms down here, but I can see how much fun it's going to be to have our reception down here. I'll even give y'all a little sneak peek of where we plan to have our wedding, right there underneath all those live oaks. Definitely have our work cut out for us, but it's going to be an awesome journey.
See where they're going with this? They didn't fall in love with the house, is my theory. My theory is that they saw a business opportunity. And this is another thing as well that I've noticed that, you know, this might be them as well, but I have noticed with a lot of designers and a lot of people that have money for whatever reason, they like to buy the exterior of the home, but then make the interior completely bare basic and make it a modern farmhouse, usually, unfortunately. Mind you, this isn't just a house flipper thing. I've seen a lot of designers do the exact same thing, and I've come to the realization that a good designer knows how to work with the bones. A good designer knows how to work with something that they might not necessarily have chosen in the first place, but want to build upon. Personally, I think it would have been very easy to keep those stairs in. Hubby might need to, like, you know, duck his head, but honestly, those stairs could have easily have stayed. With this pavilion, of course, they're seeing this as a cash grab, pretty much. They're seeing this as a potential business. And so, yes, the house is already there, let's make it our own, but this is the main reason why they want it. I respect the hustle, sure, but it is a bit disappointing when you see this beautiful historic home, especially on the outside, and then you walk in and all of that history is just lost. And later in this video, I'm gonna show you how we could have kept that staircase, how we could have made it a little bit more farmhousey, and how they could have kept it instead of getting rid of it. But yeah, the lands, honestly, they're beautiful. I can see why that this property obviously spoke to them. They were just like, yep, we've got all this land that we can use. We've got the freaking lake. We've got this pavilion that we could use as a business venture as well. And if you have the money, it's actually a really good property for that. But when you do post things like this onto TikTok, onto social media, you obviously welcome in the public opinion, and that's where I come in. But with the public opinion, people obviously come through and go, wait, hold on, this was perfectly fine. You're literally putting in a basic ass staircase because you didn't really like the last one because someone had to slightly duck their head. Like if, like, let's say, the partner was disabled and had a wheelchair, I can imagine it would be a lot harder to put a wheelchair access for that type of staircase. But if they're perfectly fine and they just kind of gotta go, I'm sorry, this is gonna be such a ramble, but let's have a look a little bit more of the spaces.
No, the Pecky board is not staying. We are trying to save it. And y'all stay to the end because I have another surprise for y'all that I forgot to show y'all that the house has. And thank you for everyone leaving comments, whether they're positive or negative, helping us along this journey.
The comments in this as well are hilarious, and a lot of people definitely agree with me. Of course, there are people that are like, yeah, I love it, but yeah, no, a lot of people definitely do not agree with what they've been doing. I think the reason why a lot of people don't agree is because she keeps saying, oh, this is our dream home, this is our dream home, but then decimates everything. Like, you can say, you know, we're going to make our dream home here, but if you're saying this is our dream home, you're kind of insinuating that, you know, you loved certain aspects of it and you loved some of the interior of it, and then to completely just strip it out, you kind of are saying that actually it's not your dream home, you're gonna make your dream home in there, which is fine, but there's just slight difference in language. Modern farmhouse admittedly was a huge trend, and I completely understand where they're coming from as to why they like it, because I grew up with it as well. I grew up watching Chip and Joanna Gaines. I get it, like they were the absolute top dogs, but now every Tom, Dick, and Harry really wants to be them on TikTok, but they kind of just want to come in, put in this very, very stereotypical modern farmhouse and say that they've added value and they've added this and added that. But really what they've done is just stripped everything that might have provided value, especially the staircase. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go on about the staircase. That staircase probably provided quite a bit of value for the home because of its potential historic value. Like, it does look old enough that it would have been historical. This also begs the question of, should we be keeping historical aspects in our home, and should there be a thing that stops people from just gutting potentially historical aspects? Now, I know back in Australia, we do have specific historical homes that will be like pretty much dated and said, nope, you cannot deviate from this, you cannot change the exterior of the home, but very frequently does not talk about the interior. An example of this, I remember there was this woman that wanted to change the paint colors of her home, and it was an old Edwardian home. And pretty much because she had this stamp that said, this is a historic building, she could only choose from historical paint colors to choose. So she could freshen it up and make it look a little bit brighter potentially, but she could not go the colors which she wanted, which of course was white, gray, and beige. But she didn't realize this, so she went ahead and purchased this multi-million-dollar home, and she could not change the things that she did not like about this home. But the thing is that there are people that really value those sorts of homes, so perhaps those are the people that should be buying them because they're going to appreciate them. And if we end up knocking down everything and then just rebuilding, we lose a lot of historical elements that we've had throughout our lives, and we've lost all this historical significance. That's one thing I do kind of like about what we've got in Australia. I do think that it probably doesn't come in close enough. So I know that a lot of, I think the 70s sort of style homes are starting to get demolished by developers for obviously building smaller and smaller little apartment complexes pretty much. I find so much more value in designs and designers that are able to work in multiple design styles. And I've come to the realization as a designer now is that there are actually a lot of people that can do design. And because you have so much inspiration these days through Pinterest and through the internet, you can quite literally just go, I like this, copy and paste. But true design really comes in when you start mixing design styles, when you start working with some of the older aspects of the home and the more, unique parts of the house that maybe you weren't going to keep, but you found value in it somehow. Another thing to note is that she has actually decided to stop posting about the renovations because of the negative backlash. And of course, I'm not saying bullying is good or anything like that, but I do kind of hope that this is kind of a learning experience for people, that there is consequences to posting things online, of course, but then if you aren't very confident with how you could potentially work in something that may not necessarily be your style, interior designers do exist, and we can actually help you work it in. And then if you are intending to, of course, post it online, you'll probably have less people being like, why did you buy a piece of history only to HGTV it? Which is so on point and is so true, honestly. I love that line, that is amazing. Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? To me, I think this is just devastating. This is just hurts my soul so much, and I'm so upset to see just another place that had beautiful character destroyed. I have been very fired up about this. I saw this yesterday and I was just like, I need to discuss this because it hurts every part of my fiber. Let's jump to future Tash, and she's going to explain how we could have kept that staircase and still make it a modern farmhouse dream. Hey, future Tash here. Before we start looking at my renders, I quickly want to discuss some of the key design elements in a modern farmhouse. Starting with the flooring, it's usually in a blonde timber. Usually this can range anywhere from white oak, whitewash, or even sometimes a really greyed timber. Walls are typically white or cream, and very rarely you can see a black accent wall. Speaking of black, black is usually used in a lot of lighting. The lighting is usually a chandelier or sometimes an almost industrial style pendant that is typically over a kitchen countertop. Kitchens are usually all white, however they do range. Sometimes they can also have timber, black, grey, blue, and even occasionally green for their cabinetry. And probably one of the easiest giveaways for modern farmhouse are timber beams and shiplap. Now let's have a quick look at my renders. So I made 2 renders, one that would be a little bit more accustomed to the stereotypical modern farmhouse and one that's a little bit more on the contemporary side, simply by just changing a paint color. This first one is quite literally what could have been if they had just painted the entire place white. Now, of course, some people don't like the idea of painting something white, but in this case, if we were trying to keep this staircase in, I think it would have probably been one of the easiest things to do. So we've got white walls, white ceiling, white everything. We've got light timber flooring, and we've also got a timber beam as well, very modern farmhouse. And we've got black accent doors. So sometimes, especially in the more modern versions of modern farmhouse, I know it's kind of silly to say moderner versions, but in, let's say, the 2010s, you didn't really see this, but these days, the more contemporary version is to see black doors, and that kind of gives a bit of contrast and has a bit more of a modern take. And of course, we've got this like faded blue traditional rug, which just seems to be in almost every single farmhouse you ever see. Obviously, I haven't changed very much. All I did was paint the entire place white, put down some new flooring, and then just add a few textural elements here that are very typically modern farmhouse. Of course, you could have added a chandelier in and it would probably be even more farmhousey, but I thought I'd just give you a very basic look. Now, this other version is for those of us that are a little bit more on the contemporary, a little bit on the bolder side. And literally the only thing I changed was make the walls black. Honestly, I actually really like this. I think it's moody, I think it's exciting and dramatic as well. Probably would have changed maybe the flooring to maybe like that black and white checker sort of look. That could have looked really cool as well, but of course that's not as modern farmhouse. As you can see, we could have easily have kept that staircase, but of course, it was their house. It is, of course, their decision, but when you open it up to the public opinion, you get people like me discussing whether or not you should have kept your staircase or not. Let me know whether or not you would have kept the staircase, and I will see you on our next internet adventure.